royal weddings have often been spectacles of wealth, tradition, and diplomacy. But what happens after the vows are exchanged and the doors are shut? While fairy tales may end with happily ever after, history tells a very different story. In this episode, we uncover some of the most awkward, tragic, and downright bizarre royal wedding nights in history. Welcome to Worst Royal Wedding Nights in History. 1. William III and Mary II, the wedding night, watched by a king. It was November 4th, 1677. William of Orange married his cousin Mary, daughter of the Duke of York, later King James II of England. At just 15 years old, Mary reportedly cried bitterly on her wedding day. And the man she was to marry? He seemed almost indifferent. There have long been whispers surrounding William's sexual orientation. Some historians have speculated that he may have been gay or bisexual, citing his close relationships with several male courtiers. While others argue that William's seeming disinterest in women stemmed from his intense focus on political and military affairs, his behaviour toward Mary was cold, especially on the night that mattered most. Making the moment even more surreal was the presence of King Charles II, William's uncle, who decided to attend the bedding ceremony completely drunk. He loudly cheered them on, watching as the young couple was ceremonially led to their bed. It's hard to imagine a more awkward beginning to a royal marriage. Though the union was politically necessary, and the couple did eventually grow fond of each other, Mary suffered multiple illnesses that affected her ability to conceive. The couple never produced an heir, and William's legacy would be remembered more for the glorious revolution than any romantic triumphs. 2. Catherine the Great and Peter III. A toy soldier in the bedroom. When German Princess Sophie of Anhalt-Zerbst married the heir to the Russian throne, Peter III, in 1745, she became Catherine, later known as Catherine the Great. Unfortunately, Peter was anything but a great husband. From the beginning, the marriage was a disappointment. On their wedding night, Catherine reportedly waited hours for her husband to arrive. When he finally stumbled in, he was drunk and went straight to sleep. In the nights that followed, instead of spending time with his beautiful new wife, Peter preferred to play with toy soldiers and build model fortresses. Rumours spread that the marriage was never consummated. Catherine later had 2 children, but given her many affairs, the paternity remains uncertain. Peter, widely seen as an ineffective ruler, was eventually overthrown by Catherine herself in a 1762 coup. He died shortly afterward under mysterious circumstances, possibly murdered by one of Catherine's allies. From wedding night disappointment to imperial downfall, this royal marriage was doomed from the start. 3. Catherine of Aragon and Arthur, Prince of Wales, a marriage that shook a church. Catherine of Aragon, the Spanish princess destined to be Queen of England, first married Arthur, Prince of Wales, in 1501. But just 5 months after the wedding, Arthur died, possibly from tuberculosis. The couple was both young, she 16, he 15. Whether the marriage was consummated became one of the most hotly debated issues in English history. Catherine insisted that she remained a virgin after Arthur's death, a claim that would later be the foundation of her second marriage to Arthur's brother, Henry VIII. Henry, believing her story and eager for a political alliance with Spain, married Catherine in 1509. But when she failed to produce a male heir, Henry began to doubt whether God had cursed the union for violating biblical law. He insisted the marriage was invalid, claiming Catherine had consummated her first marriage. When the Pope refused to grant an annulment, Henry famously broke from the Catholic Church, creating the Church of England. All from a wedding night that may, or may not, have been consummated. 4. Alexander the Great and Statira. Love? No, just strategy. In 324 BC, Alexander the Great married Statira, daughter of Darius III of Persia, as part of his effort to consolidate his empire. But love had very little to do with it. Alexander's heart, it seemed, belonged to someone else, his closest companion, Hephaestion. So close were the two men that on Alexander's wedding night, it was Hephaestion, not Statira, who shared the ruler's company. Statira, likely aware of her husband's preferences, faded into obscurity. Meanwhile, Alexander's grief over Hephaestion's death a year later was legendary. He mourned so deeply that he reportedly refused food and ordered a royal funeral. Alexander himself died just months later. Was it heartbreak or poison that ended his life? We may never know. But for Statira, that wedding night was just the beginning of a cold, lonely union. 5. Maria Josepha of Saxony and Louis Ferdinand, haunted by a dead wife. In 1747, 15-year-old Maria Josepha married Louis Ferdinand, the Dauphin of France. But her husband was grieving the loss of his first wife, who had died in childbirth just the year before. On their wedding night, Louis was overcome with emotion, reportedly breaking down in tears. Rather than becoming frustrated, Maria Josepha comforted him, an extraordinary act of grace for someone so young. Eventually, the couple built a strong bond and had several children, 3 of whom would become kings of France, including Louis XVI, the doomed monarch of the French Revolution. Still, their wedding night was a heavy, grief-filled affair that set a somber tone for what lay ahead. 6. Ferdinand VII and Maria Josepha Amalia, a bathroom breakdown. This wedding night is one for the history books, for all the wrong reasons. In 1819, Maria Josepha Amalia of Saxony married King Ferdinand VII of Spain. She was only 16 and incredibly sheltered, having been raised in a convent. So sheltered, in fact, that on their wedding night, she was so overwhelmed by fear that she reportedly defecated and urinated in bed before anything even began. Ferdinand, already frustrated by his previous childless marriages, was furious. He refused to share a bed with her after that. It took a personal letter from Pope Pius VII to convince Maria that marital intimacy was sanctioned by God. Despite this intervention, the couple never had children, and Maria Josepha died at the young age of 25. Ferdinand would go on to marry a 4th time, and finally have children, including the future Queen Isabella II of Spain.